welcome to Check My Progress to see how we're doing with our cones, rectangular prisms, cylinders, and cubes. We are on page 723. The first thing that we're going to do is fill in our blanks. So at the top of our page we have a little word bank and we have the words cone, cube, cylinder, and base. So we need to fill in these blanks with these words up at the top. So first I'm going to go through, I'm going to read them for you. I'm going to give you the time to fill in those blanks and then we'll work through it together to make sure that we have the right answers. So number 1 says, a blank has one face and one vertex. A blank has one face and one vertex. Is it a cone, a cube, a cylinder, or a face? Right, number 2 says a blank has 6 square faces and 8 vertices. A blank has 6 square faces and 8 vertices. Is that going to be a cone, a cube, a cylinder, or a face? Number 3 says a blank is the flat part of a 3-dimensional shape. A blank is the flat part of a 3-dimensional shape. Is that going to be the cone, the cube, the cylinder, or the face? Right, number 4 says a blank has 2 faces and 0 vertices. A blank has 2 faces and 0 vertices. Is that a cone, a cube, a cylinder, or a face? So if you need to go back through and listen to me reading out those sentences, you can go through and change that on your YouTube video, and you can put it at any point that you need it. For now, you can go ahead and pause while you work through and finish filling out those blanks. So I will see you when you are finished. Ready? Pause. I know that you have all of your blanks filled in. Let's work through it together, make sure that we have the right answers. So number 1 says a blank has one face and one vertex. So I'm thinking back to the shapes that I had worked with, and we have cone, cube, cylinder, and face. And I remember my cone had that flat face at the top and then a point way at the bottom. It kind of suctions down into a point. So my cone only has one face and it has only one vertex. So now I'm going to cross out cone because I don't want to use that one again. Number 2, a blank has 6 square faces and 8 vertices. So I have a cube, a cylinder, or a face. So does my cube have square faces? Yeah, my cube has square faces, and
What one is a cube?
this one right here. My cube, no, you crossed it out. So my cube had 6 faces, and it has 8 vertices, and I know that my cube has all square faces. My cylinder had circle faces, right? So it can't be that. So I'm going to write cube in here. A cube has 6 square faces and 8 vertices.
Get this off.
Hold on a second. I don't want that off. A blank is the flat part of a 3-dimensional shape. Is the cylinder a flat part of a 3-dimensional shape? No. Is the face the flat part of a 3-dimensional face? Yeah, the face is a 3-dimensional. Is the flat? Yes, please. Excuse me. A face, F-A-C-E. Now my last one says a blank has 2 faces and 0 vertices. Now I only have one answer left, but let's think about that. My cylinder was something kind of like this. It was round all on the sides, and it has 1, 2 flat faces, but no points, so no vertices. So that has 2 faces and 0 vertices. So I'm going to write cylinder in my last blank.
Why no circle or X?
You can X that out now. Alright, now we are going to go through the next ones. I want you to try and do them on your own, and then you can come up here and we'll review it together. So at the bottom of this, you're going to see a 3-dimensional shape. You need to circle whether it is a cone or a rectangular prism, and then write down how many faces and how many vertices it has. Then on the next
a square.
Then on the next page, you're going to see a 3-dimensional shape. And excuse me.
Rectangle.
Austin. On the next page, you're going to see a real 3-dimensional shape, and you're going to see a few 2-dimensional shapes. You need to circle which 2-dimensional shape is the face of that 3-dimensional shape. Then on numbers 8 and 9, you're going to see what the faces look like, and you need to match it with the 3-dimensional shape that has that many and that kind of. Number 10, you need to find out how many vertices of the faces of the cube are there all together. So what you're going to need to do is draw a picture of all the faces that cube has and count how many vertices it has all together and fill in that blank. So when you are finished with that, come back here and we'll review everything together. Pause. Welcome back. You should have finished the bottom of 723 and worked through the page of 724. So now let's go over what those answers were and how we get to those answers. So at the top, at the bottom of page 723, we have a shape that looks like this. We need to say whether or not this shape here is a cone or a rectangular prism. So to help us figure out which shape this is, we're going to trace one of the faces and see what that shows us, what shape or 2-dimensional shape we see when we trace one of the faces. So I'm going to trace the front face out. And just like this. And I see a rectangle there. And between cone and rectangular prism, I can tell that that's going to be a rectangular prism because our cones will have a circle face. So I'll go ahead and circle that one. Now I need to count out how many faces and how many vertices it has. So I already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 on the top. So it has 6 faces, and then I'm going to count out my vertices. That's going to be all those points, all those edges that our faces meet at. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices. So I have 6 faces and 8 vertices on my rectangular prism. And then we're going to start on the top of page 724. So now we're on number 6 and we see a shape that kind of looks like this one right here. And we need to say which one of these 2-dimensional shapes is one of the faces on our 3-dimensional shape. So we're looking at this, and I'll go ahead and trace it so that I can see which one it is. So I trace it out, and this is the shape I get. And it doesn't match this one. It's not a circle. It kind of matches this square right here, doesn't it? So I'm going to go ahead and give that a circle, and I'll keep on going through to double check. It doesn't match my triangle, and it's not quite as long as my rectangle. So it looks like they're square faces, which means that it is my cube. For number 7, we have a shape that looks like this, and my face is going to be this one up top. So I'm going to go ahead and trace that, and that didn't seem to have any straight sides, so it was curved the whole time that I traced it. which is very similar to my circle right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and circle that one, but still go through, make sure nothing else looks like it might be the right answer. So my next one is a square, which didn't really seem to match with that shape that I drew. So I'm gonna cross it out. Next I have my triangle, which doesn't seem to match either. And last I have my rectangle, which doesn't match either. So it looks like my face is a circle and this is my cylinder. Now number 8, we're looking at each one of those faces. So it's kind of like if we took this cube here and I dipped each face into a different color and I just stamped each face down on a piece of paper, I would see something like this. So which one of these shapes, if I stamp out each face, would I get this? So my cylinder will have 2 circles, and so it'll look like this, which doesn't match that. My cube, if I painted each side and stamped it out, it would have 6 squares because our cube has 6 faces, and we know cube has all squares as their faces. And then my last one is my rectangular prism. So it looks like I'll have 2 squares, that'll be my edges, and then 4 rectangles. Well, the only one that it seems to match is my cube, which will have all the squares. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that one. Alright, my last one, number 9, I have 2 circles. So if I took my item and I stamped the faces and some paint and then I stamped it onto a piece of paper, I would only get 2 circles out of it. So we're looking at my cylinder again. If I did that, I would have those 2 circles, which seems pretty right. So I'll go ahead and circle that now. My rectangle would look a little something like this, and that's not what I see. And my cube would look a little something like this or like that. So it can't be my cube either. So it looks like it is my cylinder. Now number 10 was a little bit of a tricky one, so I'm going to have the whole board for it, and I'll erase this in just a second, but we need to know how many vertices do the faces of this cube have all together. So let me go ahead and erase this and we'll come back to that. Alright, so if I have a cube like this and I want to take it all apart to figure this out. So it wants to know how, out of each face that I have, how many vertices will there be? So I know for my cube, it has 6 square faces. So that's what I'm going to start with doing. I'm going to take this completely apart and draw out my 6 square faces. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the reason I want to do this is so that I don't double count any of my vertices. So we have to take it apart like this, because if we start counting it just on this cube, if I count, let's say this vertice right here, well this one vertice is being shared between 1, 2, and 3 faces. So that's 3 faces, 1 vertice. But I want to know how many vertices there would be for each face all together. So that would be like triple counting 1 vertice, and I don't want to make that mistake. So what I'm going to do is use these 6 squares so I can count out how many vertices there's going to be all together. So now that I've separated them all out so that I count each vertice only once and I don't accidentally triple count like this, I'll do this and then I'll count them out. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So that will be 24 vertices all together. And so you're gonna fill in that dot there. So it's not gonna be the 8 because that's many faces sharing that one vertice. We wanna know how many vertices on all the faces are there all together. So we need to take apart each face and count each vertice that each one of those have, which is why we separated it out like this. So now you should be all finished with this. Check my progress. If you need to, go ahead and draw that out and see how we came up with that answer. And you don't have any of my homework on this one, but I will meet back with you so that we can go over our next lesson where we're going to be doing some problem solving. But if you want to go ahead, take a picture of those 2 pages that we did just do and submit those so I can see how you did with that. All right, I'll see you on the next lesson.